History remembers the Mfecane as a cataclysmic era, an age of war, displacement, and the rise of empires. Yet, what is often missing in its retelling is the reason behind the conflict. It was not merely a struggle for survival, as secular historians claim, nor was it simply the result of overpopulation or drought. The Mfecane was a battle for dominance, a reshaping of power among the ruling houses of the Nguni, an internal reckoning among the princes of the great South African kingdoms. At the heart of this conflict were some of the most formidable clans of their time, each led by visionary leaders whose ambitions reshaped the course of history. Foremost among them was the Ndwandwe kingdom, ruled by the indomitable King Zwide Kalenga. Under his leadership, the Ndwandwe were a force to be reckoned with, their military prowess unmatched in the region. But Zwide was not alone in power. There was also the Mthethwa kingdom, once ruled by King Jobe, who passed his legacy to his son Ndwandwe, later known as Dingiswayo. The Mthethwa grew to rival the Ndwandwe in both strength and strategy. Further north, the Nguni kingdom, under King Mthethwa, made its mark as another dominant force. The Amachnu, led by King Madzingwana, were feared warriors, famously praised as Nhanda Yemakanto, the bundle of assegais. Equally formidable were the Dlubi, under King Langalibalele, whose lineage traced back to the early ruling families of the region. Among these giants stood the Tembu, led by King Goza, and the Kumalo clan, originally under the authority of the Ndwandwe. King Mashobane, father of the great Mzilikazi, was tied by blood to King Zwide, as Mashobane was married to Zwide's daughter. The Kumalos, though often seen as a lesser force at the time, would later rise to carve out an empire of their own. Of all the clans in contention, perhaps none is as controversial as the Zulu kingdom. Often dismissed as a minor clan in its early days, the Zulu lineage stems from Zulu, the younger brother of Kwabe, of the house of Malandela. Yet, from this small house, mighty nations arose. The Biela, Mzelamu, who later became known as the Baka under King Madzikane, were all extensions of the Zulu lineage. So, too, were the Mbata of Shandu, the Nshangase, and many others who, despite later divisions, remained linked by a common ancestry. The rise of the Zulu under Shaka of Senzangakona would later challenge and redefine the entire political landscape of southern Africa. But before Shaka's rise, the region was already in turmoil. To truly understand the Mfecane, we must look further back, to the great kingdoms that once ruled the land. The fall of Great Zimbabwe had given birth to two powerful successor states, Mwenimutapa and Tagwa. The Changamira dynasty, a breakaway from the Mwina Matapa, rose to prominence under Changa, a warrior king and a son of Matape, who would later challenge European intrusion in the region. Trade had long been the lifeblood of southern Africa. From the time of Mapungubwe to Great Zimbabwe, commerce with China, India, and Persia flourished through ports like Kilwa Kisawani. But when the Portuguese disrupted trade in the 16th century, the consequences were devastating. The decline of established trade routes weakened the once thriving kingdoms, paving the way for internal power struggles. The emergence of Delagoa Bay in 1544 as a new trade hub shifted power dynamics. Inland kings now sought to control access to this port, leading to increased competition. By the late 17th century, the Portuguese had taken control of Mwina Matapa, installing a puppet ruler and further destabilizing the region. It was in this era of shifting power that new kingdoms emerged. The Razvi state, locally known as the Amalachwa, Baratza, or Lozi, became a dominant force, founded by the same Changamire Dombo who had expelled the Portuguese. His title, Harutshi, meaning Great King, echoed the power of his rule. Meanwhile, coastal kingdoms like Dembe and Mshabane gained prominence. The Tembe kingdom even split into two rival factions, Dembe Velho, the elder, and Dembe Moko, the younger, of which the younger wielded immense influence over trade and politics. As European powers such as the Dutch East India Company and Austrian traders sought to establish themselves in Delagoa Bay by the late 18th century, local rulers like Ndwandwe III and Langa III began to shift southward, looking for new territories. This movement set the stage for the great wars that were to come. While secular history attributes the Mfecane to drought and overpopulation, the reality was far more complex. The real cause of the Mfecane lay in the battle for control over trade routes and economic power. For centuries, local kings had dictated commerce in the region, trading gold, ivory, and cattle with foreign merchants. When European powers sought to monopolize trade, it led to a crisis among African rulers who fought to maintain their sovereignty. Many of the kings who fought in the Mfecane were descendants of the great pre-colonial empires. As the older kingdoms fractured, new claimants to power emerged, leading to bitter succession disputes and territorial wars. The wars of the Mfecane were also driven by military evolution. The rise of highly organized, disciplined armies, such as those of Zwida, Dingiswayo, and later Shaka, fundamentally changed the nature of warfare in southern Africa. Traditional raiding and cattle theft evolved into full-scale military campaigns that redefined political boundaries. European encroachment from the Cape and Mozambique certainly exacerbated instability, exploited, and took advantage of weakened African states to expand their influence. The Mfecane was more than a simple tribal conflict. It was a struggle for power, a war of kings, and a battle for economic survival in a rapidly changing world. The powerful empires of the past had given birth to new kingdoms, and as these kingdoms fought for dominance, the political landscape of southern Africa was forever transformed. It was through this great turmoil that new legends arose. Leaders like Mzilikaze, Shaka, Zwangendaba, and Soshangane, each carving out a legacy that endures to this day. The Mfecane War was not merely a war of destruction. It was a war of creation, where African nations, though reshaped from the ashes of the old, ultimately met the fate of being manipulated by foreign forces. And in the echoes of its battles, we find the origins of the modern African states that exist today.
Ushaka nyota mesha na matota inyoni kanjaba etisa hlezinye hebe hlezinye etisa hlezinye hebe hlezinye tisa hlezinye hebe hlezinye etisa hlezinye hebe hlezinye etisa hlezinye hebe hlezinye ngalo mhlaba wona wendlo